everybody at? Hold up. Let me pull this up. Hold up. Let me pull this up. Where you guys at, man? Hugh the Dev, how's it going, Fanatico? What's up, brother? What's up? We got something big to talk about today. This may change the landscape of boxing. Hashim 47, let's go, champ. What's up? What up, Fanatico? Fanatico, what's going on? Music Renown, what's going on, brother? How you guys been? Good? You guys been good? How's everybody recovering from the whole mega fight? From the whole hype of the mega fight and the aftermath and everything like that? You guys recovering good? Chilling. Good. All right, so I got an article pulled up because, of course, if we're going to talk about pay-per-view numbers, we got to bring some sort of reliable source. Now, pay-per-view numbers, pay-per-view numbers are tricky, right? Especially how fragmented this event was, because you could buy pay-per-views on the Showtime app. You could buy pay-per-views on Showtime cable. You could buy pay-per-views on DAZN. So it's somewhat fragmented, but the source is an internal source. So because it's an internal source, these can be reliable numbers. Now, the hype behind the fight was really, really strong. So I do feel that there is it is a possibility that that these numbers are the legitimate numbers. Hold on, one second. Music Renown, waiting to see where Ryan moves on from here. I think Ryan could fight people like a Jojo Diaz. I think a Jojo Diaz will be a good fight for Ryan Garcia, depending on how good he does there. I think that since Jojo Diaz gave Devin Haney some trouble, maybe that's a good fight for Ryan, where it's not so dangerous like a Devin Haney or Lomachenko, but it also tests his talent. It tests how good he is. He could also fight Isaac Cruz, right? That's a good fight. If he gives a good fight to Isaac Cruz or beats Isaac Cruz convincingly, that could be something that helps him get something there, right? Because he just lost to Tank, who had trouble with Isaac Cruz. So I think a Ryan versus Isaac Cruz or Ryan versus Jojo Diaz, a fight that he was already going to do, but then didn't do. I think because he got injured. I think that's a good fight. Doing good. Hope all is well with you. Yes, sir. Damn good fight. Was waiting on Spence and Bud announcement. Man, me too, man. 1.3 million times $85 for pay-per-views equals $110,500,000, which will get split between the promotional team, the events, and as well as the fighters, obviously. But also they get the gate as well. So this was a massively successful pay-per-view. Now let's look at the source, because this matters. We're not just going to go on Twitter and say, hey, some guy said it, so now we got to believe it. That's not how it works. People are always trying to mislead you. So always try to go for a source that is at least bare minimum internal or part of the event. And that is what we got with this gentleman here. Now, this is... what's the gentleman's name? Ade Oladipo, right? So let's pull that up here. Ade Oladipo. Tank versus Garcia pay-per-view buys. We're going to go ahead and read this together. Tank versus Garcia pay-per-view buys well over 1 million, according to DAZN employee who worked the event. And that employee is Ade Oladipo. Tank versus Garcia pay-per-view buys 1.3 to 1.4 million per DAZN's Ade Oladipo. Ryan Garcia watched the referee count to 10 and decided not to get up when he was dropped for the second time by Gervonta Tank Davis in round 7 of Saturday's super fight at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, live on DAZN pay-per-view and Showtime pay-per-view and the Showtime app. In the U.S., the first knockdown was scored. We know that time countered. Second time he went down, a result of a late reaction to the left punch to the body, a shot that seemed brutal, and Garcia concluded that he could not continue. you. No belts, no pound for pound rankings, just two of boxing's young, undefeated stars put it all on the line in their 136-pound catchweight clash. One of the most anticipated fights of recent times. Tank versus Garcia really captured the imagination of not only the hardcore boxing fan, which that's not the most important thing if you want success. You got to also capture the imagination of the general sports fan alike, and therefore was expected to be a huge commercial success. Tank versus Garcia achieves over $1 million per Ade Oladipo. Ade Oladipo, who worked the fight for DAZN in Las Vegas, revealed on his YouTube channel that he heard the fight achieved massive buys. I'm hearing it's done incredible numbers, over $1 million, comfortably over $1 million. I'm hearing like 1.3 to 1.4 million pay-per-view buys. DAZN, I know, we're very, very happy with the pay-per-view buys. DAZN alone, I think, done around 450K buys. I didn't just pluck that number from thin air. I kind of know that could be the number. Showtime, I think, done well over 700,000 pay-per-view buys. So, pre-fight predictions, the majority of people thought that last Saturday's fight would achieve somewhere in the high 6 digits in terms of domestic pay-per-view buys, with one of the promoters of the event, Oscar De La Hoya, predicting as high as 2 million. Steven Espinosa, the head of Showtime Sports, was a bit more pessimistic about the potential buy rate before the fight. Now, Steven Espinosa works within the, he was the head of Showtime Sports for so many years. He was one of the people that spearheaded the massive contract or the massive project to bring Floyd from HBO to an exclusive contract with Showtime, which elevated Showtime's popularity in the boxing world and put them above HBO when HBO was dominating the market. So he's really well versed in this. And he put out a pessimistic number, but I think he put out a pessimistic number in the event that the show didn't perform at this amazing number of over 1 million buys, so that bare minimum he could say it's still a success, even though, you know, it didn't hit the coveted 1 million. So the biggest thing we've seen since Mayweather-McGregor was 800K that Canelo did against Plant. Yes. Wilder Fury was a little below that. Espinosa told IFL TV. Okay, so here we go. 1.3 million being reported. Now, when it comes to pay-per-view buys, we always gotta wait. We gotta wait for the Showtime numbers to come in. These are reported numbers that are coming in based on this Ade Oladipo from DAZN, who knows the number of 450K buys from DAZN, which only if you have a DAZN membership, you're going to be buying from DAZN. If you don't, it doesn't make sense to get a membership, pay that money, and then also pay for the Ep.5. People were more than likely buying it on Showtime, right? Because if you're a casual fan, you don't have DAZN. So non-casual fans have DAZN. So it's almost safe to say that if 450,000 was the number coming out of DAZN, that at least bare minimum more than that came out of the Showtime pay-per-view just on cable, which would put it at 1 million anyways, right? That is amazing for boxing. That is absolutely amazing for boxing. If the final numbers do come in, and it is indeed above 1.3, 1.4, that will be insane. Number one, it will be one of the top 10 pay-per-view buys in boxing of all time. Of all time. And it would set a precedent that boxing is still prestigious enough to hit these elusive million buy numbers, even with the advancement in piracy, right? How piracy has pulled away some of the numbers from these fighters because people are pirating the content, which, by the way, don't do that. Pay for it, because if you love the sport, if you're a casual fan, I can't tell you much because you don't really care for it. But if you love the sport, buy the pay-per-views. It's just like, I mean, you're going to eventually spend, $60 on food, like, in a month at some capacity. Like, come on, just think about it like that. Break it down, do something. But come on, man, support the sport. Or go to a bar at least, right? Go to a bar or something. Be part of the progress of boxing, not the regression of boxing where people are just like, it's dead. Boxing's dead, so let's not do any big fights, right? So this is good for Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford. This could light a fire in Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford. This is good for creating super fights. And the thing that was empty, and let me switch over to just my face. That way, if you guys are commenting, let me pull up the comments. I bought the pay-per-view through DAZN, but wasn't able to watch it. Oh, really? Well, I bought it through DAZN, but at first it said the fight will start yesterday at 8 or whatever, but that was only for like a little bit of time, and then it came back like after a few minutes. It came back, and as you guys seen, I watched the fight live while I was streaming. I'll watch pay-per-view for free. Streaming should be free. Nah, man, that's the business model of boxing. It's not like a sport. It's not a sport where they get paid inside of the. It's not a sport where they get paid inside of the sport themselves and get contracts and stuff and play on a seasonal basis and get paid for that. It's like it's prize fighting. It's basically contractual. You move from one contract to the next. After a fight is over, you're essentially out of a job until you get another fight. So boxing is very, very different. It's not like every other sport where it's like it should be free. It's different. It's different. You have to generate interest so that people could buy those pay-per-views. And I think that for big fights, you should be able to, like, it deserves that money, right? De La Hoya versus Floyd Mayweather, it deserved to be bought. Right, Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao deserved to be bought, contrary to a lot of people thinking that the fight didn't live up to expectations. But the fight itself, the magnitude of the fight, it deserved to be purchased, in my opinion. Okay, so true, but Bud and Spence don't have massive social media followings like Ryan and Tank. Probably wouldn't do nearly as good pay-per-view wise. That's true, but here's the thing: it doesn't matter how you don't look at it in the way where it's like, because Tank and Ryan did 1.3, 1.4, that now Terrence Crawford and Spence is going to do 1.3, 1.4. No, Steven Espinoza was pessimistic about the numbers. He thought that maybe 700,000 would be possible, 600,000 would be possible. If 700,000, 600,000 was possible with Tank versus Ryan, considering that massive appeal that they have with the casual market, and then that's the numbers they did, then the trickle down would be that, okay, maybe 400,000 max, 300,000 would be Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence. But since 1.4 million or 1.3 to 1.4 million is the possible numbers, and if it comes out to be the actual numbers, if that is the numbers that pay-per-view did, then the trickle down could be 700,000. 600,000 for Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence. And that fight becomes much more lucrative because the projected numbers for Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford was much lower than 700,000 pay-per-view buys because of the fact that, hey, look, man, this is where boxing is now. This is the piracy era, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to get anywhere near those numbers. But they've shown that boxing can get to a high number. Then you just start to average down as a regression formula to look at who else can create a super fight that can get close to those numbers, right? Now, you don't got to top them, but you could get close to it. And the fact that the ceiling is over here, that means that Terrence and Errol Spence could be over here, as opposed to the ceiling being over here, and then they end up over here. So there's still more money. That it shows that there's more money in boxing than what was initially thought. That's the really important thing. The Zone support haven't responded to any of my emails. I'm giving them a chance, but damn. Oh, really? Wow. They definitely should have hooked you up with something. Like, that's kind of crazy. Did you ever end up watching the fight? If not, that's crazy. Yeah, never loaded for me. Ended up buying it on Showtime. Oh, there we go. But I'm not happy about having to pay it. Oh, of course not. If the Zone don't refund me, I'm unsubscribing and will fire. Chill, bro. Okay, but no, I completely understand that they definitely should be giving you your money back. That's for sure. But the fact that it didn't work could also show that there was a lot of traffic going in there. I bought mine early, like super early. like 2 days before. So maybe that was why I was able to get in. I'm not 100% sure. If they got over 1 million pay-per-views, it's great for boxing. Yes. Now, why do you think I have Tank on the cover of this channel? Why do you think I have Tank on the cover of this video, of this thumbnail? Off topic. Oh no, even if you put money, bro, we can't talk about Undisputed, unfortunately. This is strictly boxing. But I appreciate the $5, man. I appreciate the $5. Unfortunately, however, we can't talk about it. We thought it would hit 750,000 pay-per-view. There's a lot of pandemonium around the numbers, but I don't know. Yeah, I know. That's the thing. These numbers are not 100% guaranteed. However, the source is internal, worked with DAZN for this fight. Is Ade Oladipo. He's part of DAZN. So it's not coming from nowhere, right? It's not coming from nowhere. It's coming from somewhere. So that's an important thing to take note of, that at least these numbers, the source for these numbers is coming from someone that is somewhat reliable because it's internal. And if let's say he only knows about his numbers, it makes more sense that the numbers would be higher outside of DAZN, considering the fact that DAZN, you would have to have a subscription. And if you have a subscription, even though DAZN has other sports and all these things, mainly the people that are getting subscriptions with DAZN are boxing fans, right? If you have a subscription, you're already a diehard fan. You're going to be paying $19.99 a month. You're a diehard boxing fan. So that helped with that gave a good benefit to diehard boxing fans to get the pay-per-view for cheaper, since they're already paid for DAZN. But the majority, the casual fans that drive the money up to $1 million, those guys, they're going to get it from Showtime. So more than likely, Showtime has better numbers than DAZN. And if DAZN hit 450K, then that means Showtime bare minimum hit more than that. And if they hit more than that, we're crossing over the 1 million buys. That's just my opinion. We're automatically crossing over the 1 million buys if in fact Showtime did more than them, which I can't see them doing less than DAZN, when DAZN is really only the market of the diehard fans anyways. Jumpman23, what's going on? Salute, bro. Shout out to everyone in the building tonight. Love see Shorty's in here. The man with the plan to give us a indie boxing game. Okay, so why do you guys think I have Tank on the cover of this video? Why do you think I got Tank on the cover of this video? Now, a lot of people have said, I've seen a lot of conversations, Tank's not the face of boxing. Even if these numbers are true, if he hit these million buys or whatever, Tank did it with Ryan. He didn't do it by himself. By himself, he averaged about 200,000 pay-per-view buys. If I can remember correctly, I think he did about 275,000 with Rolly, 215,000 with Hector Garcia pay-per-views, which is pretty good to do on your own when you don't have a dance partner, because Rolly is not really a dance partner and Hector Garcia ain't a dance partner. So it made me think, well, what happened the last time a mega pay-per-view star went into the pay-per-view market, but then came out the other side at some point becoming a pay-per-view star? Because everybody got to start. Everybody got to start somewhere, right? So it made me look at Floyd Mayweather's numbers. Now, Floyd Mayweather's first entry into the pay-per-view world was against Arturo Gotti. When he fought Arturo Gotti, Floyd Mayweather did about 320,000 pay-per-view buys, roughly, right? Now, Mayweather was not the star attraction of that. Gotti would sell pay-per-views. Gotti was a good pay-per-view seller because Gotti was a blood and guts warrior. People would watch his fights, right? His fights would sell itself because it's like, this guy's going to come to fight. You're going to get a brutal back and forth or whatever. So the selling point for the Mayweather versus Gotti, and I think it was called Thunder and Lightning. Thunder being Arturo Gotti, Lightning being Floyd Mayweather because he was so fast. Cool name. And it ended up being that he did 300 and something, 320,000, right? The fight also sold seats out in 5 minutes. Yeah, and it definitely the gate, and it was really high priced gate seats. So I think the cheapest seat was like the all the way in the back, and it was like $800 or something like that. Remember Floyd saying thunder makes noise, lightning strikes. I remember Floyd saying, I don't know why they calling it thunder and lightning, because I'm the thunder and the lightning. That's all I remember him saying that when he was signing and they were interviewing him, and they're like, he's like, I'm the thunder and the lightning. Basically saying I'm gonna beat him up. I'm gonna beat him to a pulp, and I'm gonna be throwing fast punches. Which he did that when he fought Arturo Gatti. He's actually one of the most dominant performances I've ever seen. Ryan Garcia needs to throw uppercuts and stop leading with the hook. He needs to be able to set up that hook. That's what I think. He needs to start doing things to set the hook up. He needs to use a jab. He needs to angle. He needs to do feints and stuff like that. And realistic feints. He doesn't do realistic feints. He just does like a head fake. Like, you can't do a head fake in boxing. You really got to be smart. And there's so much more that he could do. I think if he had a good jab, that would help him. But he relies too much on speed because he's tall for the division. He's long for the division. A jab would really help him. And then over time, you can set up that left hook behind the jab, right? Get people thinking about other things. If they're thinking about the jab is coming straight down the pipe. They're going to be over here, so you can open up the left hook later down the line. But for some reason, he doesn't really do anything. He is no special effects with Ryan Garcia. It's just speed, right? And he uses that a lot. Even though he's good at controlling distance, he's pretty good at controlling distance when he wants to. But for the most part, he's more speed than anything else. I feel like Tank really studied that hook like a book, and in a way took one of Garcia's most important weapons away from him. He did. I mean, he just expected it to come, and Ryan Garcia was like predictable. He expected the hook, and that's what Ryan Garcia was trying to do. Granted, Ryan Garcia had a lot of success with the straight right hand. He landed it a bunch of times on him. If he would have made him have to think about the straight right hand a bunch of times, because Ryan Garcia is good with the straight right hand. He's knocked people out with the straight right hand. So if he would have been using that a little bit more, I think that would have been a little bit better. But he I don't know, man. He was just, I feel like the moment was too big for him. It was a little bit too scary for him in terms of like the lights were too bright, and he was a little nervous in there because he didn't seem relaxed. He didn't seem loose or relaxed. He seemed more jittery. All right. So, anyways, as I was saying, and I'm gonna get back to this right here that you asked me. It's mega. But as I was saying, Floyd Mayweather did 320,000 pay-per-view buys. Now, this is 320,000 pay-per-view buys before piracy has been running rampant in the boxing community the way it is now, right? It wasn't that big back then. If you wanted to see Arturo Gatti versus Floyd, you had to pay for it. Like you could, it was very little wiggle room back then. I'm sure that it existed, but not a lot of people were privy to the things that they could do where they do what they do now, right? So that's something that is you know, that you have to take into account. When Floyd fought Zab Judah, he did roughly around 300 something pay-per-view buys. So this started his trend of pay-per-views. So it's like, okay, Arturo Gatti, 300 something thousand. He beat up Arturo Gatti so bad, it linked him, so people knew who he was because they came to show up for Arturo Gatti and they learned about Floyd Mayweather. So, and it was like, it's not, if you've never seen that fight and you don't like Floyd Mayweather because you've only seen his last fights or whatever, if you watch that fight, you'll be like, what? It was one of the biggest beatdowns you'll ever see. Throwing massive combinations, super accurate. It seemed crazy. It doesn't seem like the Mayweather that you would expect if you are new to the sport and only saw his last few fights, right? So he gets that linkage, and that linkage helps him get around 300,000 something pay-per-view buys against Zab Judah. And then he fights Carlos Baldomir, and he does another like 300 and something buys. His 300 and something buys is essentially like Tank's in this era of piracy, Tank's 200 and something buys might be better than Floyd's 300 and something pay-per-view buys, considering how difficult it was to pirate back then than it is now, right? So if you were to adjust for piracy inflation, right? I don't know, whatever. Maybe it looks like Tank could be in the ballpark, understanding how big piracy has gotten, especially in combat sports. He might be in the ballpark of like 400,000 buys-ish, right? 400,000 buys. Because a lot of people are watching the fight, but only 200 and something thousand are paying for the fight. So you take that, and then you look at Floyd Mayweather when he fought Carlos Baldomir, did 300,000. He fights Oscar De La Hoya, and then when he fights Oscar De La Hoya, they do 2 point whatever. So him and Oscar, boom, 2 point something million pay-per-view buys. Before that, and people are like, oh yeah, because he did it with Oscar. But before Oscar fought him, Oscar fought Ricardo Mayorga, and he only did about 1 million something pay-per-view buys. He fights Mayweather, and he doubles that number. That's unheard of. And at the time, that was the most pay-per-view buys in the history of the sport, right? That was the most. That had topped Mike Tyson versus Holyfield 2, right? So that was the most pay-per-view buys ever. And so think about it. So a lot of people are like, oh, Tank only did that number with Ryan. That's true. At the time, Mayweather, who before he fought De La Hoya, he incredibly increased his numbers from 300 something thousand to 2 point something million. He did it with De La Hoya, and then he fought Ricky Hatton. And in the United States, even though you could say Ricky Hatton was super popular in the UK, but in the United States, Floyd did 1.15 million. So he never did anything less than $1 million all the way up until he fought Andre Berto, because of course at that point, nobody cared anymore. It was like he fought Manny Pacquiao. Andre Berto was just him finishing out his contract because he did a 7-fight, I believe it was a 7-fight or a 6-fight deal with Showtime. So he had to fight 2 times every year for 3 years, and his 5th fight was with Manny Pacquiao. So he had one more fight he had to do it with Andre Berto, and that fight did like 550,000. But before that fight, every single pay-per-view he was doing was over $1 million, over $1 million. So I think that Tank is now the face of boxing. I think that Tank has become the face of boxing. And I want to know your guys' opinion. I've given you a look back at what could happen, because one thing that I'm seeing a lot is people are like, how can he be the face? He averaged before this Ryan fight 200,000 pay-per-view buys. But so did Floyd before he fought Oscar De La Hoya. He averaged 300 and something. Then after he fought Oscar De La Hoya and got the 2.1 million, of course, when he had dance partners like Canelo, he beat those numbers, or he got really close to those numbers. Or when he had Manny Pacquiao, for example, he beat those numbers, right? He destroyed that. He doubled that number. So, of course, when you have a dance partner, it's different. If you have a dance partner, you'll get more views. But I think that he also was doing 1.2 million pay-per-view buys with the likes of Robert Guerrero, right? Robert Guerrero. He was also doing it with, Ricky Hatton. He was and Juan Manuel Marquez. So once he hit that stardom, that transition period happened. Here's the thing, though. Normally, for a star to be born, you have to beat another star. For a star to be born, you normally have to beat another star. And for years, the torch was always passed. For years, the torch was always passed to the next person. Hey, listen, I'm the pay-per-view star. You gonna beat me? Okay, cool, you beat me? Here you go. Now you're the pay-per-view star. You're the young, hungry lion. Go out there and continue doing your pay-per-view numbers. That's the same thing that happened with Oscar De La Hoya. I believe he beat Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. It was passed on to him. Oscar De La Hoya had the mantle. Then Oscar De La Hoya lost a bunch of times. A lot of the people started getting the mantle, but then losing, so it kind of fizzled out really quickly. Then Oscar fought Floyd Mayweather, and he was like, "Here, Floyd, now you got the mantle. You beat me, so you got the torch." Floyd was the first person to break that chain. Until Floyd, there was always a pay-per-view star lingering every single time. There was always a pay-per-view star, because when the star left, he had lost to somebody else, and that other person would continue going forward, right? Pulling the numbers because that person was not losing or young or whatever. Floyd was the first person to not pass it on. Floyd left boxing without passing on the torch to another person, which is crazy, right? So because that happened, there was a black hole in boxing where who's the star? We don't know. Nobody ever beat Floyd. So what? I mean, Manny and Floyd were a byproduct of each other, right? Once they fought, it was over. Like that whole buzz was done. That's why when Floyd fought Berto, nobody really cared as much. Even though 550,000 pay-per-view buys is still a lot, but nobody cared to the magnitude that they did before. So that's it. It was a gaping hole for years, right? Now, Canelo was able to do something special with the Mexican community and the Mexican-American community and then the American community, because he fought Floyd, but then he went on to bigger and greater things. He was somewhat of an attraction already. He was made an attraction with Floyd Mayweather, but he still kept going. But nobody actually beat Floyd Mayweather. And if you don't have like a person that could beat you, but then y'all don't fight and y'all keep on going, there isn't intrigue either, right? So over time, Canelo has lost a little bit of his hype, right? He doesn't hit 1 million pay-per-view buys. I think last time he hit 1 million pay-per-view buys was his first fight with Gennady Golovkin. I think that was the last time he hit 1 million pay-per-view buys. But he hasn't hit it since, and the closest he's gotten was his 800,000 with Caleb Plant, which was great, amazing, but it didn't hit that. So Ryan versus Tank was basically a good cheat code to jolt it back to life. Like, okay, cool. Ryan got like this lightning in a bottle. He's really popular in social media. Tank is popular on social media as well. Not as popular as Ryan, but popular and amongst the boxing community, right? And so there's two big stars. They fight and they crack the 1 million pay-per-view buy number. I think from this point forward, Ryan can keep on fighting on pay-per-view because these numbers have proved it, and Tank can also keep on fighting on pay-per-view, which he's gonna do because he's done. But he's gonna carry big numbers with him moving forward. I truly believe that he's going to now carry big numbers moving forward. I think maybe not cracking 1 million because it's gonna trickle down. He's probably gonna be doing something like 700,000, 600,000, depending on the dance partner that he has. If there's a mega super fight down the line that he could pull off, like something with a Lomachenko or something, if he fights Lomachenko, for example, he's going to crack that 1 million again. But I think the new face of boxing is undoubtedly Gervonta Tank Davis. And if we go by what have you done for me lately numbers, because we can't go by, Canelo did 2.1 million with Floyd Mayweather. Like, no. That was way back then. He does not doing those numbers now, and piracy is much more difficult to get over now. When he fights John Ryder, I don't think it's fair. I think he has to fight he has to have a dance partner too, and then we have to see what those numbers were. But when he fought Caleb Plant, in my opinion, that was somewhat of a dance partner, but I don't think anybody's at the level of both Ryan and Tank where they're that super popular. So because of that, people now, casuals, know about Tank. That's the thing. It's the casuals need to know about you. Now they know about Tank. So when Tank fights again, celebrities are going to come out, all of this stuff, and people want to be part of the fanfare, part of all that stuff, and they're gonna want to see Tank's next fight because he's explosive. He's knocking people out. He's like kind of like the Mike Tyson, albeit completely different, and he does different things and whatever. But in terms of what's his specialness, he's this knockout fighter, right? And that's what was special about Mike Tyson, which why people wanted to watch Mike Tyson. So I think he moves forward with being the face of boxing and doing better numbers than Canelo Alvarez after this. That's just my opinion, but I want to know what you guys think. Is he now the face of boxing, or is Canelo Alvarez still the face of boxing? I know this is off topic. What's your favorite NBA team right now? My favorite NBA team will always be, no matter what, it will always be the Knicks, because I was born and raised in the Bronx. So, and I like the fact that they haven't won yet, because when they do win, it's going to feel very, very good. I don't just go to a team because they win. I like the Knicks is my favorite basketball team. Floyd is the best defensive boxer ever, but shouldn't be the example to follow. I'm just talking in the respects to how pay-per-view stars are born. Floyd was born from the whole element of getting the torch passed on to him. That's what I think. Canelo is number 1. Tank moved up to number 2. Okay, if Canelo fights somebody, right, and has a dance partner, right? Let's say Canelo has a dance partner. Ooh, a super chat, $10 super chat. Hold on, I'm gonna get right to it. Project Jab, and thank you so much. I'm gonna get right to it. If he has a partner, for example, let's say he fights Benavidez, right? That's a pretty good fight. But he doesn't crack 1 million pay-per-view buys. Would he still be the face? And if Tank, for example, fights, I don't know, Lomachenko, and then does like 1.6, 1.7 million, would that not make him the face of boxing? I do think that Tank is going to now have a residual carryover, the same residual carryover that Mike Tyson had, the same residual carryover that Floyd had, that once they were exposed, it locks on. Stars come out, people want to be part of that, people want to come out and be part of that event. And the crazy cool thing about it is that Ryan was getting booed and Tank was getting cheered at the event. So it looked more like people like Tank. It's not really the blueprint of Floyd Mayweather, where Mayweather had the Muhammad Ali blueprint. People paid to see him lose, right? Muhammad Ali was infamous for saying, you could pay to see me win, you could pay to see me lose, but you still paying, right? And Floyd had that same mentality. You could pay to see me lose, pay to see me win. He put on the black hat. He put on the villain, the villain hat. But Tank is in a unique spot where he's not necessarily considered the villain to most people. People actually adore Tank. So he's doing it differently. I think he's doing it the Mike Tyson way. For example, people adored Mike Tyson, even though he was essentially the villain. Even though he made himself the villain, right, by his antics, people still adored Mike Tyson. People cheered Mike Tyson on whenever he fought. And I think that that's what's happening with Tank, and it's because Tank has that thing that Mike Tyson had, where it's like he's gonna come in and he's gonna knock you out, right? He's gonna come in and knock you out, and that's the thing that was intriguing about Mike Tyson. And now with celebrities coming out and all this stuff to see him, he's creating a narrative to the world that he's that important. Now casuals know who he is, and casuals are gonna start watching Tank a lot. So I think he's gonna start doing massive pay-per-view numbers, but we're gonna have to see for his next fight. But if these numbers hold true, this is really powerful for boxing, because now we have a superstar, and it's in the lightweight division. You couldn't ask for a better division to have it. We got Loma in there. We got Devin Haney in there. We got Shakur Stevenson in there. Best division for that to happen. Because if it would have happened in some other division, we wouldn't have had all these other possible stars that could align to fight Tank. Project Jab, thank you so much for the super chat. Ryan should link up with Freddie Roach. Pacquiao was a one-dimensional fighter with speed and a left hand. Like Ryan, Interesting. Yep. He was a lefty. He fought a little bit different, but I do see the comparison. Freddie developed Manny into a dynamic boxer. Maybe he can do the same for Ryan. Hopefully, Ryan is young enough where there could be tweaks and little shifts here and there, the kind of make it a little bit more soft around the edges instead of having rough edges. It is very possible. It is very possible. But thank you for the super chat, by the way. That's amazing. A $10 super chat, man. You really supporting. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you. I appreciate you. And Andrea Smith. Andrea Smith says Tank is number one. T Culture. I believe that Tank Davis will be number one soon. That is possible. We got to see what his next fight is. But if he cracked 1.3 or 1.4 million pay-per-view buys, that's insane. In this era where boxing does not sell, I mean, for him to sell like that, that's wild. That's a big deal. So that means that there is a path to making money in boxing. And once that number is out there, all these other promoters are going to see, oh, cool, he just let us know. Boxing is still alive. Boxing is still a thing. We could still crack 1 million as long as the stars align. Let's try to make the stars align on our end. So Top Rank might be more inclined to do a Lomachenko, whoever wins between Lomachenko versus Devin Haney against Shakur Stevenson. They might be more inclined to do that to see where they get and maybe do some cross-promotional stuff because there'll be enough money to share to do cross-promotional events, right? Bob Arum is not notorious for doing that, but you never know. He might do it because it makes financial sense, right? So that's an important thing to keep in mind. Unless you are talking about selling out arenas and putting butts in seats, then yes. Otherwise, no. The only way that's the only way I put Tank number one. Well, what do you mean? Because if Tank did do 1.4 million pay-per-view buys, that's what will make him number one. Because nobody's even getting close to those numbers. No one's getting close to those numbers. Last time we got into the millions was Fury versus Wilder 1. That's the last time we hit those numbers. Project Jab, I don't think Freddie isn't the same anymore to train fighters, unfortunately. He still got the brain. Hopefully he gets somebody as a surrogate that he could talk to and have them do certain things. But he still has the brain of a good trainer. So it all depends, man. It all depends. That wasn't a boxing ring. That was a stage, 100%. There you go. Wasn't a boxing ring. It was a stage by Pat Master. What do you think about YouTubers in boxing that brought some back into the sport? I love it. I actually think that, believe it or not, the YouTube boxing scene is what opened the doors for a Tank Ryan Garcia to succeed. That is something that I truly believe helped set up a Ryan Garcia versus Tank successful pay-per-view event. I truly believe that because it conditioned young people to care somewhat about the sport, right? It's conditioned some people to care somewhat about the sport of boxing. It made people say, oh, you know what? Okay, so these guys is my favorite YouTubers. They're boxing. This is fun. I like this. I like this event. I like purchasing this and sitting back and enjoying an event that happens every once in a while that's not consistent. Oh, so let me look at, who's Jake Paul talking to? He's talking to Ryan Garcia. Who is Ryan Garcia? Oh, he's a boxer. Oh, this is cool. I want to get to know who he is. I want to know this. That. It opened up the doors for Jake to even collaborate with Ryan Garcia, for Jake to do, you know what I'm saying? So there was that, believe it or not, even though people were very hard against YouTube boxing and all that stuff, I was always pro YouTube boxing because it was a gateway to the real boxing. Now, Ryan Garcia brings a lot of those people in to see Tank versus Ryan. Now those people see Tank, they like Tank. Now Tank brings them into other fights that's real boxing, real fights, and Ryan brings them into other fights, and now the sport grows because of that trickle-down effect that happened from, or that pull effect that happened from YouTube boxing. So I actually think that it was one of the reasons why Ryan Garcia versus Tank was a successful pay-per-view. 100%. Contrary to what most diehard boxing fans would say, that's what I truly believe. That's what I truly believe. All right. Project Jab, I was thinking Robert Garcia. Yeah, if he wants to have like another Mexican trainer, that's a possible thing. TikTok and YouTube sells. It is what it is. There's no boxing anymore. Hey, listen, man, there's boxing, but us boxing fans, we got to make sure that we buying the pay-per-views, right? We got to make sure, and everything has to be theatric. There has to be a theatric element to it for the casual fans to come and watch. If there's some sort of theatrics there, it'll pull them. Now Tank could be doing, now a Tank versus Devin Haney fight might do 1 million something pay-per-view buys. And that's a real fight, right? That's a fight to know who's the best in the pound for pound list, who's in the, where do they rank on the pound for pound list. I think you have to have certain circus shows like a Ryan versus Tank, which essentially is a circus show because they don't have any belts. It's not for the pound for pound rankings. They're not even ranked in the pound for pound rankings, but somehow they have a interest, right? So you take that and you can move that to real fighting or real competition, like a Tank versus Devin Haney or Tank versus Shakur or a Tank versus Lomachenko. Because boxing is prize fighting, is not seen as everything else. It's not seen like all other things. It's seen more like it's an isolated per fight thing that every single fight has to sell itself. It's not this conglomerate that sells the entire sport to you like the NBA or the MLB or anything like that or NFL. It's every fight has to sell itself. So there has to be some circus stuff. There has to be some theatrics, right? There has to be those things so that it could help for the future of boxing. Whatever could put eyeballs into boxing, YouTube boxing, the Misfit stuff and all these things, Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones exhibition, whatever could put eyeballs on boxing is a good gateway to opening them up to watching the sport when it really matters, right? If not, if we don't do that, we're gonna get stuff like Andre Ward versus Kovalev that nobody watches, which is what happened. And that was for the number one pound for pound to see who was gonna be number one pound for pound fighter in the world. So those things are important, man. Those things are 100% important. Does overall appeal matter? Does overall appeal and reach matter? Like being in commercials? Yes, that's important. Having big sponsors, etc. If so, it's hard to say Canelo isn't the face. No, that's important, but you got to understand Ryan does that. Tank does that. But I think that what makes you the face is not how good you are, is if you sell pay-per-views. Because when it comes to maybe people know you outside of the sport because you're involved in different sponsorships and stuff like that, that's one thing. But can you drive those people to pay for a pay-per-view? If you could drive those people to pay for a pay-per-view, especially in this era where piracy runs rampant, that's it. That has to make it, because that's when it's about boxing, right? You're the face of boxing. You're not just a celebrity. When you're sponsored and you're doing all these things, you're a celebrity. But when you're driving people to the sport itself to see you fight, then that means that you're the face of boxing itself. You're moving people into the sport itself, and that's an important asset to have. And I think Tank might have that above Canelo. I don't know for sure. I'm not saying that 100% that that's the case. We still have to see what Canelo numbers are. We still have to see what Tank continues to do. But I think that we've turned a corner where it is possible that Tank is the face of boxing, especially if he has done 1.3, 1.4 million pay-per-view buys. Who you got? Shakur versus Tank and Shakur versus Haney. I got Shakur beating Tank, and I got Shakur beating Haney. If you don't know, I'm a Shakur fan. I'm a big Shakur fan, but I do think that he is probably has the highest skill ceiling out of anybody who's boxing right now in the professional rankings. Mr. Bones Boxing. That being said, how many pay-per-view buys do you think KSI versus Jake Paul will get? I think they could get somewhere in the ballpark of 600,000 pay-per-view buys. I think 500,000 to 600,000 pay-per-view buys. I think that is very possible for both of them to do. Jake Paul did with Tommy Fury 750,000. But I think after Jake Paul lost, that a lot of the luster of seeing Jake Paul is gone. But there's still an intrigue of seeing Jake Paul versus KSI. So I think that it will suffer a bit because he lost, and it will go around 600 to 500,000. That's my prediction for KSI versus Jake Paul. Oh, we got another super chat, another $9.99, another essentially $10 super chat by Orlando in LA. I was going for Ryan. He got a lot of work to put in, and I think he would do it. I just don't like the disrespect he's getting. They call him a social media fighter, but he's not scared to fight the best. Exactly. First of all, Ryan needs to get all the props in the world for making this fight happen, because clearly, and hold on, let me make sure that that your comment fits in here. Clearly, he wasn't ready for Tank. And he must have known that he wasn't 100% ready. He must have known he must have known that he would be. He must have not known how big the moment was going to be. He must have known that he could be nervous up there, that there were so many elements, that he's young. Normally at this age, you protect your O and you just keep working up. But he's done things differently, right? He's worked around the elements of being a star, not with boxing, but outside of boxing, which to me, he's created a template for other fighters. You should build yourself on social media. Like, take social media seriously, because look what the fruits of your labor could bring you if you take social media seriously. So I think he took social media seriously, and he did something that's unprecedented. He became a star adjacent to boxing, but that fueled his boxing appeal, and he was able to pull numbers like what he did with Tank, with 1.3 to 1.4 million pay-per-view buys. Early number reporting by an internal source from DAZN. So I think that that's an important thing to take into account, and for Ryan to risk his being a professional boxer, I think that is admirable for him to do. So no one should be clowning him, but that's just the nature of boxing. People are going to rub it in your face and da-da-da-da-da, and then guess what? When one of their fighters loses, then the other groups are going to rub it in their face, so it's going to be a vicious, endless cycle that'll never end. And the reason they're rubbing it on their face is because, hey, you rubbed it on Ryan's face, so now I want to rub it in your face. And then they're going to be like, hey, you rubbed it on my face. Remember that time after I rubbed it on Ryan's face? Now I'm going to rub it on your. So it'll never stop. It'll never stop. And it'll always be a back and forth. And this has been the case since forever when it comes to boxing. We got King Juice in here. Hold up. Haven't watched one Misfits fight if KSI ain't in it, LOL. And I watched them, so I can have a valid opinion on a potential Jake fight. Okay, so what do you think the numbers are going to be, King Juice, for if Jake was to fight KSI? I think that's an intriguing fight. I could be wrong. I think it's an intriguing fight. Jake Paul is a gimmick. He is a gimmick, but he helped bring eyeballs to the sport. Young people care about boxing because of Jake Paul. Believe it or not, social media cares more about boxing because of Jake Paul. If not, boxing would not be where it is now. The collaborations he's done with Ryan Garcia has grown Ryan Garcia's channel. Ryan Garcia didn't just grow on his own. There was a lot of collaboration and stuff, and a lot of siphoning audiences from other popular social media influencers that had a young audience that helped Ryan Garcia be where he's at right now. And also even help Tank be where he is at right now. I stumbled across this channel, but bro, you know your stuff because it's all entertainment. At the end of the day, it's about money. Yes, sir. You're right. It's about money. And thank you for coming through, by the way. Thank you, Flip Trips. Thank you so much for coming through, man. Thank you. Let me see here. There will be way less superstars in boxing if they all fought each other like UFC. That's possible, but UFC is essentially the NBA. It's essentially the NFL, right? In the sense that the best will be forced to fight each other, and there won't be politics holding them back from doing that. Therefore, you get all these the best fight the best kind of the best fighting the best kind of situations, right? Because the best they have to fight. There's a title, there's a ranking system. It's all in-house. So they have that advantage over boxing, because boxing, unfortunately, is a prize fighting where everyone is an individual person, and promoters have to come together. For example, yeah, probably want Tank versus Devin Haney, right? Yeah, probably want Tank versus Loma. Yeah, probably want Tank versus Shakur. That's gonna be hard as all heck to make. You know why? Because Devin Haney, Lomachenko, Shakur are in Top Rank, and they are notorious for not working with PBC, and especially notorious for not working with Floyd Money Mayweather and Mayweather Promotions, which Tank is the face of Mayweather Promotions. So it's one of those things where it's going to be very difficult to get the fights that we want because of politics. Boxing has always been dragged down by politics. Same thing with Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. It took forever to be made because Manny had to literally be a free agent and break away from Top Rank so Floyd and Manny could finally come together and come to an agreement to fight. And look how much money was on the table when they finally fought. It's entertainment with a little skill. LOL. There you go. It's entertainment. I mean, that's why they tell you to go out there and get knockouts. You don't want to get a knock. You don't want to have to go out and get a knockout. You just want to fight your fight, and hopefully, you win. And if you win on points, that's fine. The only reason people even think about, oh, let me get a knockout, let me get a knockout, is because of the fact that it's entertainment. They're trying to entertain. It's like with basketball, like, they could just play their game and whatever. They won, and that's it, right? But it's like if you're forced to do like under the leg dunks and all this stuff just so people could come out, because if you don't do that, nobody's going to show up. It's one of those things where they have to perform. Hold on. Project Jab is wild. I'm going to get to you. Hugh the Dev, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Let's see here. Let's go to Project Jab. Project Jab, call me with the $20 super. What are you doing, man? Jesus, thank you so much. My goodness gracious. We growing this channel little by little. Project Jab is out here going ham. Thank you. All right, here we go. Let's read this. Once again, thank you, brother. Call me crazy, but I think Tank and Ryan will run it back. Depending on the pay-per-view numbers, the fight will be at 140. Tank will eventually move up. Ryan could capture a title or two and use a wild card based on the weight catch. Okay, call me crazy. Depending on the pay-per-view numbers, the fight will be at 140. Tank will eventually move up. Ryan could capture a title or two. I think that it's possible. It is possible. If Ryan does his thing, some more years come in, they could be like, oh, he was inexperienced because he's much younger than Tank. Even though Tank is young, Ryan's still much younger than him. So they could be like, oh, he was inexperienced. He wasn't ready yet. They like, now look who he beat. He beat this guy, fighter A. He beat fighter B. He might be ready for Tank. And if there's no rehydration clause, and if they fight at a more comfortable weight, 140, he might actually win this time, blah, blah, blah. Granted, if they do that, I would think that Tank will still win that fight. However, that can be sold to the public because people would love to see, comeback stories, right? So people might want to see Ryan come back, but he definitely can't do that right now because right now it's too fresh. People know he's not on the level. He can't do that right now. He definitely can't do that right now. I just want to see who the winner of Haney versus Loma is going to be. This could definitely be a potential matchup for Tank. It can, but like I said, Top Rank is notorious for not working with the PBC. They're notorious for keeping it in-house. And Top Rank has a really deep stable, so they could keep it in-house. They don't necessarily have to move out. I mean, because even when Devin Haney beats Loma, they still got, like, Shakur Stevenson could still fight the winner of those two. So they got a deep stable in there. They got a pretty deep stable. Let's see. Facts. I paid that 90 clip. There you go, bro. There you go. Box Fanatico. What are you drinking, my guy? A LaCroix. A LaCroix. It's seltzer water. It's flavored, naturally essenced seltzer water. It's 0 calories, but it tastes delicious. This is beach plum. This is my favorite flavor of LaCroix. It's, if you have not tasted this, and this is not a sponsorship, I'm not sponsored by them at all. It just really tastes really good. But also, you have to kind of like seltzer water. Not a lot of people like seltzer water, so if you don't like seltzer water, it's tough. It's tough. And seltzer water is a little bit of an acquired taste too. You might not like it in the beginning, but if you keep kind of forcing yourself to drink it, you'll end up loving it. Seltzer water is like one of my favorite things to drink. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and end the stream right there. We're actually 2 minutes past our time. Thank you so much, guys. Yes, we have an internal source from DAZN, as you can see here. Let me go right here to show you guys. As you can see here, internal source says that it has cracked. Tank versus Garcia pay-per-view buys well over $1 million, according to the DAZN employee who worked the event, and that DAZN employee is Ade Oladipo. And his numbers is 1.3 to 1.4 million pay-per-view buys, with DAZN alone doing 450K, and Showtime expected to do over 700,000. And even if he doesn't necessarily know the Showtime numbers because he's not working directly with Showtime, 450K will insinuate that this is for people who were subscribers of DAZN, which will mean you're a hardcore boxing fan. So this is definitely just hardcore boxing fans, or a majority of hardcore boxing fans, a big majority. And so I believe that the majority of the pay-per-view buys will come from Showtime anyways. And if you couple that together, that's easily crossing over 1 million pay-per-view buys. So even if this number is not exactly perfectly correct, I do believe that that 1 million pay-per-view buy number has been cracked, even though people thought that it was impossible to do in this era. So that's actually pretty cool that they did that. All right, guys, peace out. I'll see you tomorrow, of course, 7 p.m. Eastern time, as we always do here on Boxing Fanatico. Now, at the end of the week, though, I think starting on Thursday, I will not be here. I'll be in San Francisco. I will be back, though, on Tuesday. But if there's anything that's important, I'll record on my phone, throw it up there, and put it on the channel, whatever, or put it on my Twitter. So you could also follow me on Twitter. Those links are down on my channel, just in case if you want to be kept up to date. But please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and on your way out. And thank you again. You guys showed up today. Project Jab, thank you so much for all the support that you brought into this chat. And the numbers continue to climb for our live streams. I mean, we were doing live streams with numbers like 10 people. Now we're already hitting stuff like 40, 60 people concurrent, right? So we're doing really, really good, and we're growing this channel with IRL boxing content. So I appreciate it, because, hey, look, I took a leap of faith. This is the roots of this channel. When I started it back in 2016, I pivoted to boxing video games because you guys wanted me to be that person that talked about boxing, get video games. But one of my loves is boxing, and I was able to do that. And I'm happy that this is looking like it's actually moving in the correct direction. So thank you so much, guys. Boxing Fanatico, this live stream has earned you my subscription today, sir. Thank you, Pat Master. Much appreciated, man. Thank you, thank you. Jay Shep, love the streams. Thank you, brother. Jay Shep in the house. Thank you so much, man. I think Tank, hold up, my fault. Y'all not even seeing the stuff. Hold on. I think Tank's next fight should be William Zepeda or Kambosos. But once again, those are going to be tough. Because it's different promotions. As a warm-up fight before Stevenson and Haney. Those are wishful thinking, but different promotions make it super tough for this to happen. All right, guys. Until the next one, peace out. I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, every day, Monday through Friday, other than this week, because I'm going to be in San Francisco at the end of the week and coming back on Tuesday. But other than when I'm on vacation and not home, 7 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Fridays. Until the next one, guys. Peace out.